Welcome everybody to week 4 of Peak. It's exciting to be back. We're halfway through the climb already. The last few weeks we've been focused on nutrition and our bodies and getting ready for summer. So this week we are going back to our mind. We're going to be maximizing our mind today. We have Jodi joining us once again to help lead us on the journey. So without further ado, Jodi, you can take it away.
Terrific. Hey guys, how are you? Always good to see some wonderful faces on here. Can we see? Oh, there looks like 16 of us so far, hey? Justin, do you know if we're expecting any more? Should we wait a second or two, or?
I did get some comments that people did have sports tonight, so they might not be able to attend, and we'll catch the recording. We do have 27 registered though. So I think we can start and we can just add people as we go. Okay,
perfect. Hey everybody, nice to see you. It's a beautiful day here down in Calgary, which has been nice because we haven't had the greatest weather, so it's actually nice to see a little bit of sun, right? All right, bear with me for just a second as I get things set up here for us. All right. All right, can everybody see that? Give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so question number 1, and feel free to use your chat, you guys. My question today is, how are you feeling? So jump in the chat and tell me how you're feeling today. All right. Justin, if you don't mind, I see a hand raised. You can just take that for now. Happy, awesome. Shy. Relaxed, nice, happy. Shy, disappointed, okay. Good, kind of chill. Oh, yeah. Cold asthma. Yeah, everyone's got something, right? And for me, I'm feeling pretty happy, but I'm not energetic today, which is unfortunate because I like to be energetic for our sessions, but I have a bit of a headache, so I'm kind of just a little bit below my normal energy today. So hope that's okay. But today what we're going to do is really get into kind of how we're feeling. And anyone that's been with us before, you'll have seen this slide. And when we did it before, if anyone remembers, we talked about the interpersonal skills, and we did a little bit of a personality conversation on if you were a eagle, an owl, a monkey, or a retriever. And that was talking about how people get along with each other and things to pay attention to when you're in a relationship and when you're meeting new people. Today, we're going to talk about intrapersonal, which means internal, right? And all about what's inside of you. So that's where we're going to go today. And everyone's going to be a little bit different, as we could see in the chat, right? So intrapersonal, again, we're going to talk about our emotional intelligence. And our emotional intelligence is how we understand what's happening to us all the time. So sometimes if you feel sad, you just feel sad and you can't figure out why. Or sometimes if you're super excited, that's awesome. But sometimes you also have a little bit more control than you actually probably realize. So we're going to talk about that, because when you understand your emotions, you can have a little bit of control over them. Not to say they're not important, but you just can have a little bit more control over them, and not let them get out of hand, or when they're in the right place at the right time. So this I just wanted to put this up here because, again, this is just about everything internal, right? And different parts of the brain do different parts of our body. And it's important, if we understand it, how we can start to make some of our own decisions about it. Now, you guys tell me, if you want, in the chat, if you remember that we've talked about the different parts of the brain. And I'm not sure if Coach Frank has also maybe talked about the different parts of the brain, and some of the other people, but there's 3 different parts, right? We've got our lizard brain, our mammal brain, and our human brain. And I know we've gone through this a little bit before, but having these different parts of the brains, they do different things, right? And it's important, if we understand what they do, then it's really helpful when it comes to kind of managing them. So here's our lizard. Here's our lizard brain, right? Lizards have a very little brain. And when we think about our lizard brain, it's really in charge of survival, right? Are we going to get through today? Yes. Are we going to eat? Are we going to need to survive something? Is something scary, or we need to survive it? Or are our systems all functioning, right? So what's keeping us breathing? What's keeping our heart beating? What's keeping our blood flowing? All those things that are in charge of our survival, that's the lizard brain working. Okay. And it's a good thing to have going, but sometimes it screams out like it gets spooked often, right? And we don't need our lizard brain to get spooked if there's nothing happening. But back in the old days, when way millions of years ago, lizards were they always had to make sure they survived. And that's all that their focus was. So that's why we have a little piece of lizard brain in our own body. Okay. Then we also have the mammal brain, and it sits in the middle. Okay. And the mammal brain's really, really in charge of how do we feel? How are we fitting in? Mammals like to do things together. Mammals like to be part of a tribe, part of a group, right? And you often see them as a pack, and they depend on each other to survive. So that's part of what our brain is too, right? Because we're mammals, and it fits into how are we surviving and how do we bond with other people. And then when we do that, are we creating memories? And that's the part of the brain that would store memories. Okay. Any questions so far? All good? So we're going to come back and talk about our mammal brain here in a minute. Then this is the super cool thing, because we have the human brain, and that's that big outer brain that sits on the top and that sits in the front and that sits there, and it's in charge of decisions, and it's in charge of regulating our emotions. So this top part is huge when it comes to helping us out. So I'm going to show a little video here, because I really would like, this gal on the video really explains how the brain works. So if you just bear with me for 2 seconds, I'm going to pull up the video for you. Okay, and just confirm that you can hear it.
Learners, you already learned that your brain has different regions that control different things. Your cerebrum helps you think and speak. Your prefrontal cortex helps you make smart decisions. Your cerebellum helps you move and balance. Your hippocampus helps you store and find memories. Your amygdala is where you feel your emotions. And your brainstem controls your involuntary movements like your breathing and your heartbeat. Now, I want to show you something really cool.
Everybody
Today,
do
we're
this
going
with
to take
her,
on the
okay?
challenge of learning how to use our hands to visualize the structure of our brain. Are you curious? Let's fire up our neurons and get ready to learn something new. We're going to use our hand to make a model of our brain. Hold up your hand like this. We start with our wrist and palm. This represents our brainstem. Now, fold your thumb into your palm, just like this. Can you do that? Your thumb represents the amygdala. These parts of our brain, our brainstem and our amygdala, are some of the earliest parts of our brain to develop and sometimes get the nickname of lizard brain. You'll learn a little bit more about that with Dr. Nagler. But for now, let's keep going with our hand model. We have more sections of the brain to make, don't we? Now that we have our amygdala, wrap your fingers over your thumb to make a fist, just like this. These fingers represent our upper brain. Back here is our cerebellum. That keeps us balanced. Up top, we have our cerebrum. That helps us think and speak. And right up front, we have the prefrontal cortex, which helps us make smart decisions. This is our hand-brain model, and it's a great symbol of our brain. It's not exactly what the brain looks like, but it can help us communicate things about our brain and how we're feeling. Like, look at this. See how our cerebrum and prefrontal cortex wrap snugly over our amygdala, keeping it nice and secure? When our prefrontal cortex is in control, we feel happy, calm, and focused. We are ready to do our best learning. But we don't always feel that way, do we? Sometimes we feel upset, or angry, or frustrated, or too excited. Sometimes we even feel so silly it feels like we're losing control of our bodies. And that's okay. We all have times where our emotions take over and we have a hard time focusing and making smart decisions. When we feel this way, it's because our amygdala is in control. We can represent this by opening our palm to show our amygdala. It's kind of like saying, I flipped my lid and now my amygdala is in control. Right now, we can't even see the prefrontal cortex. Our hand-brain model gives us a great way to communicate which part of our brain is in control. And that's really important because when our amygdala takes control, we have a very hard time focusing. The amygdala is great at emotions, but not so great at making decisions. But why is that? I'm curious to learn more about my amygdala. Well, for that, you're going to visit my friend Dr. Nagler in his lab. Thanks for joining me, learners. I hope you're curious to learn more about your extraordinary brain. Dr. Nagler is going to keep.
All right. Hang on 2 seconds here. So I'm just going to stop sharing for just a sec. Now that you guys have seen that, what I want you to do is put your brain together again. Show me that, right? Put your thumb nice tucked in there. Now, for those of you who started off saying that you were happy, then this is probably what your brain looks like, right? Is it your brain, your prefrontal cortex there, the thinking part of your brain is covering up your amygdala really nicely. Now, if anyone's feeling a little bit stressed or a little bit sad or a little bit anxious at all, it starts to lift up. Do you see that? It starts to do this. That's that prefrontal cortex starting to expose that centerpiece, right? So if someone's not feeling really great and not calm, you're going to start to feel like your brain is opening up a little bit, right? So if I were to see you sometime and you didn't know how to say something, you didn't know how to verbalize that you weren't feeling great, all you'd have to do is show me your hand and say, Jodi, this is kind of where I'm at, you know? And if you were sitting with your hand open just a little bit or even all the way, I'd be able to help you out and go, oh yeah, we need to do some work to bring that back down and get your decision-making power back to where it should be. Does that make sense? Yeah? Jordan, do you have a quick question? Jordan, your hand's up. Do you want to ask something?
So when our body says to open, close, open, close.
Yeah.
And so what if Jordan, this is for you.
Yeah.
Where I'll know your name and that you're one of the artists.
So Jordan, I'm just going to mute you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're feeling again really good, it's going to be down. If you're feeling really struggling, you can't focus very well and you're struggling, it would be up like this. right? And if it's kind of half, like Lori says, a little bit half, yeah, that's just, you know, you just need to bring some things down. And we're going to talk about what you do later on. But what's super cool is that you guys get to be in control of this, right? Not just of your hand, but now that you know it, you actually get to be in a bit more control of your brain. So I think that's super cool. So that's why I'm doing a lot of studying about this in particularly. So give me 2 more seconds and I'm going to share my screen again. All right. So now my question is, what are different kinds of emotions? So maybe just throw them in the chat. What are different kinds of emotions that we feel? Anybody? You guys listed some when you first answered the very first question. Excited, worried, sad. Yeah. Shy, nervous, worried, mad, eager. Wow, that's a good one. Yeah. Very happy. Fears, that's a good one too. Overwhelmed. Yeah. Everyone has a whole array of emotions that we'll go through. Playful, I like that too, right? And there seems to be different spectrums. Okay. And kind of the 6 main emotions that we have are, oops, there we go. 6 main emotions we have are joy, sadness, angry, disgust, fear, and surprise. And then all those other ones kind of fit in and around there. But those are kind of the 6 main emotions that we have. And do you think that, and just use the chat again, are any of these emotions better than the other? Are there any emotions that are better or worse? Right? If you're sad one day, is that a negative emotion? Or if you're angry, is that a negative? And if you're feeling joy, is that better? It depends. Anybody else? And I think my follow-up question to that is, should we always be positive? You've heard a lot of, when we've done the peak sessions before in the mindfulness, is to have those positive thoughts. Should we always be positive? Yeah, a few no's, a little bit yes, yes. Yeah, it's a bit of a debate. Does anyone want to tell me why they think that? If you do, put your hand up and tell us what you're thinking. Okay, Cassie, you can take yourself off mute.
No, you shouldn't always feel positive. It's okay to have some like off days and everything, and just have time for yourself and everything. So it's okay to not be positive all the time. It's okay to be negative sometimes and everything.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Cassie. Yeah. Kaylee, how about you? What do you think?
What I do when I'm positive, I always play music makes me positive.
That's awesome. And what do you do when you're kind of feeling down?
When I feel down, I talk to myself.
Good for you. Okay, Jordan, what about you? Do you think you always need to be positive?
We have to stay positive. We have to stay tough, stay strong. We
Okay,
have to have energy to build muscles
yeah.
and feel the strength.
Okay, thanks, Jordan. Anybody else? Okay, so yeah, the question is do you always need to stay positive? And sometimes there's some value potentially in different feelings. So bear with me just a second. I have another little video clip, and I don't know if anyone has ever seen the movie Inside Out by Disney. Has anyone ever seen it? No, it's a super awesome movie, and just bear with me a second. I'm just going to show you a clip, so just hang on tight. What do you guys think of that? Any thoughts on that? It's interesting, right? What I found with it is this whole idea that everyone wants you to always be happy, right? And when you look at Riley's family, and it was always about Riley just needs to be happy, and even her joy inside the head was so dominating, saying, no, we have to make her happy. She has to be happy. But sometimes you're not, and that needs to be okay. And what was super interesting was when Joy realized that, wait a second, when sadness is there, and the parents come and help out, and the teammates come and help out, and all of a sudden they bring that peace to you. And if you always pretend to be happy, you're not going to get that, right? It's better if you have it and you have that support. And so that's why I wanted to show you guys, because I just think that that's really important to understand, that all your emotions are important. And when my kids were little, I would often say, you're allowed to be mad. Absolutely. If something's bothering you, you're allowed to be mad. I just need you to talk about it. So tell me what's going on. Don't be mad at me if I didn't do something. Just tell me what's going on so we can work through it. Right? So I think that's something to consider. That it's just something that we want to always look at. So I'm just going to go back and share here for a second. So here's the next question. Should we try to mask our feelings, mask those negative feelings? Right? And when you mask them, again, what's the word? Everyone jump into a chat. What's the word when you're pretending that you're fine? When everybody, I've given the word away. What's the word when you're pretending to be okay? When someone says, are you okay? What do you often say? Throw it in the chat. Everyone does it. I'm fine. Right? Right? So that's the word. Kim's got it. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right? Is everything okay? Yeah, it's fine. I'm just tired. Right? That's, people will often say, I'm just tired. But basically what you're saying is, leave me alone. I'm okay. But you're not okay. And it's not helping out when you don't say that, right? There's time and place, obviously. But sometimes if you're not okay, you're not okay. And it's okay to be able to say that. I'd rather have somebody come and tell me that, I'm struggling, just like I did at the start of our session today, where I said, I've actually got a really bad headache. So my energy level's just a little bit lower than I normally would. But it was important for me to share that with you. I don't want to just say I'm fine, and then you go, wow, Jodi's really off today. There's something going on, but now I'm curious, or, she's not herself. So this is that permission for you guys to say, you know what, I'm not okay today. And that's okay. So here's a couple solutions. Here are a couple solutions on what we do when we have the feelings that we're maybe not wanting to have at that particular moment, right? And before we jump into that, I just want to use the word. So we've said negative and positive, right? We've said the negative ones might be angry and disgust and sadness. And the positive ones, again, joy, happiness, surprise, those ones. What if we just started saying healthy, right? I'm having a healthy emotion right now. I'm not having a positive or a negative one. I'm just having a healthy one because I'm acknowledging what it is. So, but when our emotions get a little bit too big for us, what do? We've all been there, right? We don't want to make it fuss at maybe a particular time. We need to get a bit more focused. So let's talk about what do we do then. So this is kind of interesting to me. Number one thing we do is we let our emotions be what they are for about 90 seconds. And that means if we're super sad and fussing and crying is a really good thing, you guys. Crying is huge. And if you're sad, crying is the best thing for you. And I know that may seem a bit silly, but it's not silly at all. It does things with the chemicals in your body. So crying is really important. But let's feel it. Let's go with about 90 seconds of really feeling that emotion, right? And then this is really interesting to me. If you can get outside, even looking outside helps. Even looking at a picture of outside helps, right? Nature just makes people feel better. So just being outside, right, is really helpful. Going for a walk, moving. So whether you can actually go for a walk, like if you feel like your emotions are just getting the best of you, and whether, again, you're just not being able to concentrate or something, do jumping jacks, skip rope, go for a walk, high knee walks, whatever it is. Again, just that short few minutes of that exercise also helps. And then when you really decide, now I'm ready to kind of get focused again, what I'd like you guys to do right now is put one hand on your belly. Okay, one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. Now, you know, you can't see what I'm doing, but one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And this time I want you to breathe, but when I want you to breathe in through your nose, and then I want your belly to go up. The hand that's on your belly, I want it to go bigger. So breathe in and make your belly go big. And then I want you to breathe out as if you're blowing out a birthday cake. Okay, so don't let the hand on your chest rise. This time I want your belly to rise. And then blow it out. Okay, and you can do that 10 times. That's called a belly breathing. And what's really interesting is all these kind of exercises start to impact what's happening up in that amygdala, that part of the brain that we had covered up with our big outside brain, right? This is all the stuff that helps it. So there's other things you can do, and everyone probably has some of those, their own grounding exercises, whether it's squeezing really tight in your muscles and then relaxing, right? And then squeezing bigger muscles and then relaxing. That's another good one. Now, what I'd like you to do, tell me another one where I didn't put it on here, but talking about gratitude. So everyone type in the chat something that you're grateful for. It can be anything you're grateful for. Because when you can think about things you're grateful for, again, it changes some of that chemistry that's going on in your brain. Grateful, I like that. By friends and family and peak. I'm kind of the same. Friends and family are huge for me. Shelter. I have an amazing mountain view right in front of me outside my window, and I just love it. And I love that I was able to do that. Perfect. So when you guys ever feel like you're just a little bit stressed or a little bit sad, you start to come around about, what am I grateful for? And that really helps everything out. Friends, perfect. Now it's interesting, again, how all this stuff changes how you feel. But go back to your hand. Let's go back and do this. Okay. All the things on the screen right now are all happening in this part of your brain. Okay. Everything on the screen happens in this part of the brain. So when your brain is doing this, all these good things aren't happening. Okay. So once you feel, this is the part where you guys know this now you're aware of it. when you start to feel some of those, again, unhealthy feelings, if you want to call them that, or they're ill-timed, start to re-engage that brain and bring it down by doing these kind of activities. Now, here's the final one for you, and this is my very most favorite thing. The way the chemistry works in the body, and everybody's heard of the fetal position, right? Just show me a thumbs up. Do you know what the fetal position is? When you curl in, right? Curling into a fetal position is when you're trying to protect, that's that lizard talking, right? Because it's trying to protect your vital organs, and you go into a fetal position, right? That position screams to your brain, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble, we're in trouble, we're in trouble. Stay protected. And that's not helpful, is it? That's an unhelpful, unless you're being chased by a lion, that's an unhelpful feeling. So we need to open it up, right? So when you actually stand and you open up your chest and you kind of stand up nice and confident, that changes what your brain's doing, because it's going, oh wait, we're good. We're in a good, safe place. We're in a good, confident place. So the more you stand up, and let's think about this when you go to do your next competition, if you stand up and say, yeah, I've got this, it's telling your brain that you are solid. So here's what I want everybody to do is give me a superhero pose, right? Show me your best superhero pose, right? Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Good one. And you just think about that every time you kind of, again, if you're sad or you're mad or you're angry at something, you take your 90 seconds, you go out and look at nature, you look out the window, you do some deep breathing, you think of things you're grateful for, and then you stand like your superhero and become that and really realize that you have all the control that you need to have. Okay. So back in the chat, if you don't mind, just tell me if this was interesting to you, if you kind of learned something and what you got out of it. I just think it's fascinating. I love how we as people can control our own brain versus the other way around, right? I think that it's super cool stuff that we have that kind of control. Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right. So I know everybody's always curious as to what the word of the day is. And it is badminton. Okay, so there's your password for the day is badminton. And as you've heard me say before, when you've been in sessions with me, is this can be just one day or this can be day one. So when you need to start making changes and start thinking about positive and helpful thinking, start today being day one of a new you. All right. That's all I've got. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we close the session? No? I see some new faces and it is so nice to meet everybody and see everybody. Awesome. Okay, Justin, I think we can wrap it up.
Awesome. I want to thank you for taking time out, even when you're not feeling the greatest, to join us and share with us. I know I always find these super impactful, especially when I'm feeling stressed myself, and taking a second to remind myself or do those stretches, walk, those kind of things. So it's always great. And I hope the rest of you also take that into account and can learn from it. And then we will also be switching Social Club over to Thursdays. So they were Tuesdays, they're going to be on Thursdays starting next week. So if you can, those are available to you. But other than that, have yourself a fantastic week and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
See you guys.